doing is I'm planning in the route of the third spaceship, the rocket, which is exiting from this whole space station. So getting the angle right is quite important. So I'm very gently airbrushing in, and I think it's going to be about here. That's where it's going to be. So once the rocket trail looks all right, then I can paint in the actual rocket itself. And so I'm just building it up very gently at the moment. I can go back over it, but really it's just to get the angle right so that I can plan the physical spaceship and where it goes. Because obviously this is the whole point of this space station apparatus, that ships come in and go out of it like that. And then I'm also using a bit of it just to highlight. So around this ship, you see, it needs to stand out a bit. So this is just a little bit around the edge to sort of highlight it. So it looks like it's hanging in space a bit. There, that should be enough. And then I can put a bit of yellow on in a minute. It's just to distance it from the actual main space station. And then these are the blue skies, which that's just to sort of loosen it up a bit, like that. And then this is the actual paint mix, which is here. You have to get the mix exactly right, otherwise it clogs the gunner. So that's just to highlight the sky up there. Doesn't need a lot, just to knock it back. And I deliberately use small quantities because otherwise I overdo it. So I'm just going to go around the other space station. It's very easy to overdo it with the airbrushing, which is why more and more I'm doing it with, so this is just, I've got to do all the superstructure here in a minute. So this is just a base ground. And then in a minute I'll turn it to yellow. That's about right. Then you have to clean the brush all the time, because otherwise it gums up quite badly. Because obviously the apertures are quite small, so then I need a different brush to clean it. Yeah, and then you can clean it out a bit. You have to clean the tip because it gums up quite easily. So that's that, and then you just blow it out. And then you're ready for the next bit. That should be alright, but just to be safe. Nothing worse than when you're going, in the old days when I was doing book covers, and every minute counted, and I used to cut corners, and next thing you've got a blocked airbrush, and then you really are in trouble. So what we're going to do now, that obviously is all white, so you now need a more sympathetic, really pure yellow would do the trick. Here we are. I'm very fond of this one. Fluorescent yellow. I love it. It's my favourite colour easily. So you put a bit of that in. And then what I do is, this is actually meant for watercolours.
What is it? Show me the bottom.
It's oxgall solution, but it stops the acrylic, because as one manufacturer of airbrushes said, he said acrylic paint likes to dry, it's water-based, and it likes to dry quickly, so you add air and it's a fatal combination. It's, you know, there's no quicker way to gum up an airbrush than to use acrylic paint in it, particularly if someone like me uses acrylic paint from the tubes. It's a lethal cocktail, so you have to move quite quickly and you have to get your mixture absolutely right, otherwise it really is a problem. There it goes. That is a lovely colour, that. These are the cheaper paints, but they're not as good as Liquitex, but they're perfect for airbrushing because it's a slightly weaker paint. That would go through a bigger airbrush, but for this little one, it needs to be thinner. That is probably about right. So let's see what happens now. I wonder if it needs a bit... No, we'll try it like this and see what happens. So here we go. Ready to load up. Here we are. And let's see what happens. Hopefully this will frame the main space station and make it stand out. So let's see what happens. Because as you can see, it's a bit white at the moment. There we are. There, look, that blends it in. And I got the mixture right. So I'm quite proud about that. Because the background is actually hand-painted oil paint, no airbrushing at all. I use pure oil on the backgrounds, but you have to leave it for at least 2 days to dry. There, and this should do the trick. You see, it just merges it a bit. Here, of course, it will help blend in this spaceship. But of course, typically, I try and mix exactly the right amount, and then you always find you haven't got quite enough. But I think I'll just get away with it. Because obviously, once you've mixed it, you've got to use it. It's like anything like this. Once it's mixed, you can use it instantly, or you've had it. And that, the beauty of acrylic paint is that it's quick drying. So you can build everything up with acrylic paint and it's quick. But once you change to oil, although you've got quick drying orchid oils, they need overnight to dry. And of course, the real oil paint goes on and takes forever. So in commercial work, the real oil paint isn't really very practical. So you see good old acrylic, you bang it on like this. You go a bit mad. When I'm doing this sort of work, you paint your spaceship and things, and then it comes back, then you go in again, and then you do a bit more. And I think that is about it. And we've just about got away with it. the jet trail is not really very important at the moment because I've got to paint the actual spaceship itself. And typically, I have a farming friend, and when he's harvesting, when he unloads the combine, they deliberately don't stop until the hoppers are completely and utterly full. And I'm a bit the same. You don't stop till you've used absolutely all the paint. So it's quite a good discipline to assess how much you need and then to stop, because otherwise you get carried away. With airbrushing, it's so easy to go over the top. So you see, that needs to be lightened a bit up there. That's just, you see, these clouds are hand painted but it's there, look, you see just a little bit of airbrushing and that is it. There, you shouldn't do any more than that now. And that's got to dry. So it's quite exciting. Once that's dry, I can bring out that spaceship, I can put in the little one there, and then the long haul is all the detail on this big space station. But I think this is going to be one of the best pictures I've done for quite a long time. I'm really proud of it, and it's unusual because I don't normally do very geometric architectural pictures. The last time really was on Dune with things like the Emperor's Palace. I did a lot of architecture on that. So I'm enjoying this. It's a voyage of discovery. It's, in a way, the picture has got to the point now where it is telling you what to do. And you just sit and look at it. You know, I like to phone people at night, and I will sit with the phone in my hand looking at the picture, and you can actually see how the next bit ought to be done. You know, but it's a long way from the original concept. And you could say, when is the picture finished? And the answer is, they're never finished. You abandon them. And years later you can come back to a painting and pick it up and want to start with something else. This is the crucial bit, the cleaning out. Absolutely crucial. And just to show you what you're dealing with, this is the needle. This should really all be clean, you know, it's sheer laser. Well look, there's your needle. That's your needle, that's what you're looking at.
Yeah.
That's the needle, and that goes into a nozzle.
You hold it over there. Place it over.
Yeah. Now,
give it a background and then I can see it. Yeah.
And then, this is the actual nozzle set. I won't do there, look, and that needle goes into there, and that has to be squeaky clean, which I'm not going to do now. And then there's a little nozzle. I'll just show you. Look, this is how fine it is.
You hold it up against the picture, Dad, then I can see
it. Doesn't want to come out, which means it's set in paint.
Oh.
Here it is, it's coming out, which means it must need a good clean. There you are. Look at that. And all that acrylic paint has a field day. Look, that's your actual hole. I've got a little cleaning device, but I'm not going to do it now. But that is absolute, hey, you know, sheer luxury for acrylic paint. It can gum that lot up so completely you wouldn't believe it. And then I cheat a bit, and although you've got the proper cleaners,
you've got your, maybe do it away from the painting.
Like that.
Or do it over here if you want to.
Then you can cheat and put in some naughty stuff. Where is it? Here we are. It's actually meant for paintbrushes.
I think I'll exit when you start spraying that.
Yes.
Yeah, show me the bottle so people
There's
can
the
see.
bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very naughty stuff. But I'm not going to spray it. I'm just going to leave it. Let it soak for a bit. I'll just put a little bit in.
And what is it?
It's clean spirit. It's a
Right.
brush cleaner for paintbrushes. It's a word of warning. Probably the little gaskets, which are neoprene, I think, would not particularly like this stuff. So you shouldn't leave it in there for too long.
Right.
There it is, you see. So this is one, now I'm going to give it a quick, only 2 squirts, don't worry. There, you see? So now that can rest, but this is precisely why I like working a lot with oil paint now. So all this is oil paint, all that is oil paint. And then it's just had a dusting of airbrushing to bring it up. But you see, the oil paint itself is much richer, you know, the colour is richer and fuller. So there we are. So we've got to wait for that to dry, and then but I'm a bit curious, so I shouldn't really do this at this stage, but I do like to know what I've got. So I'm just going to take off the mask up to here. It's always a bad idea to take too much of the mask off, because you find you want to do something and you've got to remask it, you know. But I'm just very curious to see what it's going to look like. It's a very satisfying moment, taking the mask off when it comes off. I'm wondering if that's paint on there. Let's try it this way. Because that's the other problem. When I put the paint on very thickly, it does stick the mask on. So you've got to go awfully slowly like this. And that comes off. There you are. Right. And then, because I really want to know what it's like, I mustn't let the picture slip down. Let's just hold it up here, like this. And then let's take the top off. There we go. Rumble, rumble. And then you get some idea. Although I'm going to put a spaceship in at the bottom, you need to see the overall shape of the job. So this, because obviously the sky is supposed to have a certain amount of movement in it, so that everything has to work in relation to the sky. And a word of warning, don't buy the posh masking tapes which say they don't leave a line. They stick like limpets. Go for the ordinary off the peg bog basic masking tape for builders, and simply pull it down. There. And now we can get some idea of the picture. There.
So what do you think then?
Well, I'm very pleased, but of course the problem is this is all under electric light. It should really be in daylight. It would look much better in daylight. So obviously at this time of year we've got, but that, I think that is working now, and that is about the right angle for the ship coming out, because the whole idea is this huge space station can sort of rock and roll, you know, it's floating. So I imagine it as having a gentle sort of movement, like a great big liner on the swell. And so it just quietly moves backwards and forwards like that. And then this little thing has shot out, you know, straight as a die.
And that's what's going to be added in.
And that's what's going to be added in now.